Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm here to break down the Truck Series race at Texas Motor Speedway this weekend, Saturday night race. Usually the trucks are on Friday, Xfinity Saturday, and Cup Sunday, but this week we have Xfinity Saturday afternoon and Truck Saturday night. And we get Kyle Busch in both races. If you want to check out my Xfinity Series video, I will put that up in the corner for you guys. You should check that out. I go over the top plays in the Xfinity Series and how we're going to handle Kyle Busch, as I will go over in this one as well. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that thumbs up, leave a like, leave a comment, hit that subscribe button, turn on notification bell. All those things really help me grow this channel. Been growing pretty well the last few weeks, and I just want to keep that going this week as well. So make sure to leave a like and leave a comment. All that stuff really helps me grow this channel. If you want to get more of my content, you should subscribe to my Patreon. It's only $10 a month for all three NASCAR series spreadsheets, spreadsheets/cheat sheets, along with the projections, and you also get my articles, my GPP exposures, my Cash Core 4, and the rankings for salary tiers. So all that stuff for all three Cup Series. You get a lot of data, a lot of information for only $10 a month. It's only about like 25 cents a race, to be honest. It's really cheap. So hope you guys subscribe to that. If you want to follow me on social media, my Twitter is at DFSNateLane and my Instagram is at @NateLane_. I'll put those links in the description below as well. I'm really active on Twitter. Where I talk about pretty much all sports, NASCAR, basketball, football, baseball, everything, a little bit of everything, college football, college basketball. I love all those sports. And NBA is coming back soon. So if you're interested in more than just NASCAR, you should stick around. I will be making videos and content on NBA DFS, especially every single day, with a ton of content coming out every single day. Hope you guys will enjoy that and hope you guys stick around for that. But I think that's really all I got to say on all that stuff, and we'll get into the driver breakdown. All right, so we're at Texas again, or just like the Xfinity Series this week, all three races are at Texas. So this is a track where you're going to have probably only like one main lap leader, and I think that lap leader is going to be Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch starts 4th place, so he's got a very easy path to getting up to the front. He may not lead lap 1, but I expect by like about lap 5 or 6 for him to take over the lead lap. If we just go over to the ranks section, Kyle Busch ranks 1st in every single stat except for average position in the last 5 races, where he ranks, 5th place. So yeah, Kyle Busch, really good at Texas, really good at intermediate tracks, really good at large ovals, really good at cookie cutters. Been running really well this series in the best truck in the field in number 51, and he's 16,000. Yeah, that was expected. There's some value on the slate you're going to have to play if you want to play Kyle Busch, but we'll get to that in a little bit. I do think there is some decent value on the slate, and I think Kyle Busch is someone you just need to play. Don't try to get cute, don't try to fade him, don't do any of that stuff. Just play Kyle Busch. He's the best in the Truck Series for a reason. He has the most all-time wins in the Truck Series for a reason. So I would just say go with him. He is in the fastest truck at a track. Well, it doesn't even matter, honestly, to track anymore. He's just so good. So yeah, I want to play Kyle Busch today. Next, we have Ross Chastain, 11,500, starting in 24th spot. That's actually kind of far back for Ross Chastain, and I think he's got some good place differential upside here. But the problem is, if you're playing someone at 11,500, you need him to lead laps. And when we have Kyle Busch at 16,000, who just has such an easier path to lead laps and more likely to lead laps, it just doesn't really make me too interested in Ross Chastain or Johnny Sauter for that matter. Both of them are in the same category where they can move up a lot, but Johnny Sauter really has been running that well this year. Chastain has, so I'm just not even going to really talk about Johnny Sauter. I don't think he's a good play. But, yeah, Chastain's averages for his career maybe don't look as great, but he does have 185 laps led to intermediate tracks in the past 2 years. And this year, I think, is what's more important. He has an average finish of 7.25 and an average running position of 9.75. Only 20 laps led, but Ross Chastain has drove most of the races he's run has been with Kyle Busch and Chase Elliott. He isn't running full-time Truck Series this year, so I do think Chastain is a good play. I just don't. I just would rather play Kyle Busch. I don't see, and it's going to be really tough to fit both of them in a lineup, and I just don't see, unless Kyle Busch just really fails here, Ross Chastain being a great play. Okay, up next we have Justin Haley, who's coming back down from the Xfinity Series to run a Truck Series. In 2018, he ran a full Truck Series schedule, so I do have some data from him in the Truck Series. He finished 2nd at Texas that year, so the 2nd best average finish. He has the 13th best at intermediates, 10th at large ovals, and 13th at the cookie cutters. His average positions are all pretty solid. He has 36 laps led at Texas, 40 at intermediates, 40 at large ovals, and 36 at cookie cutters. So, Haley's pretty good, and he's got some good place differential upside. hasn't run a race in a truck series this year. He's running number 24 car. Or truck. That's the truck that Chase Elliott drove earlier this year. So he's in a good truck. It's not as good as Kyle Busch's, but it's a better truck in the field. I think he's got upside, but I think it's hard to really justify playing him over like Kyle Busch or even Austin Hill, who we'll get to in a second. But Haley, I don't know. I just don't think that. I think Justin Haley is a good guy to play if you're fading Kyle Busch, but I'm not playing. Like, if I'm playing Kyle Busch this week, it's not like the Xfinity Series where I think there were paths for other drivers to lead a bunch of laps. Like, I talked about Austin Cindric and Noah Gragson in that video, how I thought they could, like, get up front and lead a bunch of laps early. Well, I don't think that happens this race because Kyle Busch starts up front. Kyle Busch started 28th in that race. So I think if you're playing Kyle Busch, you're not playing any of these top guys, especially guys that start up towards the front. So Austin Hill starting third. If you're playing Austin Hill, you're fading Kyle Busch. You are not playing both of them together. There is very, very small chance, in my opinion, that those two end up in the optimal lineup together. But Austin Hill has been fast this year. He's led a bunch of laps, and he was kind of a disappointment last week, but I think he should be able to bounce back here. But Austin Hill has led a bunch of laps, and he's been very, very fast this year. And if Kyle Busch, has a bad race, Austin Hill could be the guy you need. And for whatever reason Kyle Busch doesn't get up front early, I expect Hill to pass, especially Enfinger, maybe Creed. So I think Hill's a good play. He doesn't have great ranks at Texas, 14th best average finish, but if you look at Austin Hill this year compared to past seasons, he's running so much better this year. In the last 5 races, an average finish of 3.8, an average running position of 6, and 65 laps led, which is second most behind Kyle Busch, which is crazy because I think that's only 1 or 2 races for Kyle. I think it's 2 races for Kyle Busch in the last 5, and he has like triple the amount of the other guys' laps led. But anyway, Austin Hill, most laps led outside of Kyle Busch in the field, so I do think he's a good play. Brett Moffitt starts 8th at 9,700. He's also kind of struggled here at Texas, but he's run pretty well at the intermediate, 7th best average finish at intermediate, 6th best at large ovals, and 11th best at cookie cutters. So Brett Moffitt has run well at tracks similar to Texas. He has the 11th best average position at Texas, 2nd best at intermediates, 3rd best at large ovals, and 4th best at cookie cutters. So yeah, finds a way to run up front. The problem for me with Brett Moffitt this year is he's just not leading any laps. Like, let's go look at Brett Moffitt's laps led on the last 5 races. It's 26, and all of those I think all but like 2 or 3 of those came in the last race where he started on the pole, and he's not starting on a pole this week. And we saw Brett Moffitt lose the lead to, first it was Zane Smith, and then it ended up being Sheldon Creed who won the race. So I just don't think that Brett Moffitt has really a ton of upside and is likely to lead a ton of laps, especially if Kyle Busch in the field. So Brett Moffitt, I don't think is really all that much of a play. Matt Crafton starting 15th, on the other hand, I think is a pretty decent play. See, this is the kind of guy you want if you are going to play. If you're playing Kyle Busch and you're going to try to fit in another top-end guy, which is possible. You can get the super cheap guys down low. I think Matt Crafton is a fine option to go to. He starts 15th. You want someone who's going to get place differential up here. So like a Ross Chastain, Haley is a maybe, but I think a Crafton's a very good one too. He has the 4th best average finish at Texas over the last few years, 3rd best at intermediates, 4th best at large ovals, and 5th best at cookie cutters. He has the 5th best average position at Texas, 3rd best at intermediates, 4th best at large ovals, and 2nd best at cookie cutters. The one thing about Matt Crafton is he has really not run too well this year, but last week he Last week he had a very fast car, and I think he would have been up there contending for the win if it didn't get rained out. So I do think he's starting to get some speed. He has an average finish of 7 in the last 5 and average position of 11.25. But yeah, this hasn't been Matt Crafton's year, but the price reflects that. He's not up into 10Ks like he used to be. So I think he's a fine play starting 15th here. Especially, I mean, you want to make your lineups make sense. You don't want to, because if you're playing like some of the guys start front like Austin Hill, Creed, Enfinger, Todd Gilliland, any of those guys, you're not expecting Kyle Busch to lead laps. You're expecting one of these guys to be a guy who leads a ton of laps. But if you are playing Kyle Busch, you're kind of expecting him to lead probably all the laps, and you want to get place differential guys. So it just kind of comes down to what else is in your lineup. I would not play Kyle Busch and either Austin Hill, Sheldon Creed, Enfinger, Todd Gilliland, any of those guys, but I would like to play Kyle Busch and maybe a Ross Chastain or a Justin Haley possibly, or a Matt Crafton, or we'll even get down to like a Spencer Davis or someone like that. So I think those are all good options. I just wouldn't want to play them. You have to figure out how your lineup construction is going, because I think that's very important. If you want to make it make sense, you gotta make like a script of how you think the race is going to go. So yeah, Todd Gilliland starting 5th. I'm really not too interested in him. I just don't see. Like, if he's your guy that's not going to be Kyle Busch, it's going to be a lap leader, I just don't think I think he's less likely than Creed or Austin Hill to lead laps. And coming into this race in the last 5 races, Todd Gilliland has 0 laps led. So, I mean, he runs well. He'll finish high up. He'll finish in the top 10 at least, maybe even top 5. But I just don't think he just hasn't led laps this year. And that's something I'm looking for. I mean, you can, even if you look at like the laps led for past Texas race and everything, well, he was in a much better truck. I believe he was in the KBM car. He's either in the KBM truck or the GMS racing truck, one of those two, and those were much faster trucks than he is in now. So I just have a hard time seeing Todd Gilliland get up to the front. Spencer Davis starts 19th, and Spencer Davis actually has the 10th best average finish at Texas over the last 2 years, but Davis at intermediates, large ovals, and cookie cutters have not been so great, as you can see. But the one thing I will say about Spencer Davis is he has seemed to run a little bit better this year. I mean, 16.6 average finish and 17.6 average running position isn't great. I think he's a little too expensive at 9,100. If he was in the 8K range, that's different. I mean, the past few weeks he's been priced up here, but he started way farther back to 19th, so I just don't think Spencer Davis is the way to go here. Stuart Friesen at 8,900, starting 18th, may be a little bit interesting. He has 7th best average finish at Texas, 12th best at intermediates, 7th best at large ovals, 7th best at cookie cutters. I mean, even average position, he's done pretty well. To 6th best at Texas, 9th best at intermediates, 6th best at large ovals, and 10th best at cookie cutters. But the problem with Stuart Friesen is just how he's been running this year. He has not had a good year. He has not found speed. He's in. I don't think he's in a different truck, but I think something about the funding or whatever, it's not the same as what it was last year. I think they were funded by, GMS Racing. They were getting all their parts from there, but now they're doing everything on their own. I think that's what it is. I know it's something with the funding. So he just hasn't found the speed this year, and only an average finish of 11.2 in the last 5 and an average running position of 14. It just doesn't really make me excited to go to Stuart Friesen. Up next, we have Ben Rhodes starting 10th, 8,700, 12th best average finish at Texas, 9th best at intermediates, 9th best at large ovals, and 10th best at cookie cutters. He has the 9th best average position at Texas, 7th best at intermediates, 7th best at large ovals, and 4th best at cookie cutters. So yeah, Ben Rhodes is a guy who has found success at like Charlotte, which is a track very similar to Texas. So if you want to play him for that, that's fine with me. Wow, that's not there. That's interesting. Hold on, let me drag that down. There you go. Last 5 races, Ben Rhodes has an average finish of 7.8 and an average position of 9.8 and only 6 laps led. So yeah, Ben Rhodes is another guy that I think could fall in that range of if you want to play Kyle Busch, you can play Ben Rhodes. Too, he has place differential upside. It just doesn't feel like there's a ton of it, but I think he's okay. Tyler Ankrum up next with starting 9th at 8,500. He has the 3rd best average finish at Texas, which is actually like kind of shocking. I don't really know how that ended up coming to be because his average position at Texas is only the 11th best, but there must have been some luck he had at the end of these races. I didn't really watch Truck Series all that much last year, but I did keep up with the data. So, but Tyler Ankrum has finished well here in the past. In the last 5 races, Tyler Ankrum has been running decent, an average finish of 10.6 and an average position of 13.4. It's just the problem for Ankrum here is he starts 9th, and he really is going to need to get up inside the top 5 to really pay off that salary. And do we expect him to do that? It feels a little bit thin to me. I just don't think I think he's a top 10 truck every week, but top 5. It could happen, but it feels unlikely to me just based on how he's run at other types of tracks other than Texas and even his average position. I don't really like that too much. So Ankrum isn't really someone I'm very interested in. Christian Eckes at 8,300 starting 7th has never run in a truck series at Texas, but at the intermediate tracks has the 10th best average finish, the 12th best at large ovals, and the 9th best at cookie cutters. At he has the 6th best average position at intermediate tracks, 12th best at large ovals, and 13th at cookie cutters. He actually has been a very good lap leader this year, and especially at intermediates, he has 75 laps led, and compared to all these other guys, he's run so many less races. Eckes has been good this year. He's Kyle Busch's teammate, Kyle Busch Motorsports teammate, 55 laps led in the last 5 races, which is 3rd most. I believe he at least would have contended for the win at Pocono if he didn't wreck out. 8.2 average position in the last 5 races. So yeah, Eckes has run very well this year. He's someone who I do think is interesting. Another guy that I think could be a potential major lap leader if you want to fade Kyle Busch, but I would not really advise playing Kyle Busch. Although this is someone I think you can get away with playing Eckes and Busch. I don't think if you're playing Kyle Busch, yeah, you don't expect Eckes to lead laps, but a 2nd or 3rd place finish could, just because there's not a ton of place differential, because I don't really see a ton of place differential upside this week. That could be something that ends up being really huge, and being a sneaky play that you need. Him and Zane Smith are my two guys that are like in the top 10, and I think might actually end up being very good plays if you want to play them with Kyle Busch. They could be, because I think they can finish second or third. Zane Smith has been very good at the 1.5 type tracks. Second best average finish at intermediates. I skipped over Clay Greenfield because he's 8,100 and he's trash, so don't play him. He has the second best average finish at large ovals and the second best average finish at cookie cutters. He has the fourth best average position at intermediates, second best at large ovals, and seventh best at cookie cutters. So yeah, Zane Smith has run very well here. These types of tracks. So you saw him run well at Kentucky last week. That's a large oval and an intermediate track. So yeah, Zane Smith has. I mean, he has lap load upside too. He's not someone I would, completely choose to lead a ton of laps, but I mean, 31 laps led at intermediates and large ovals over the last, well, that's really just this year. So, I mean, you show like the small amount of races he's run, he's done pretty decently at leading laps. So I do think Zane Smith's fine. He's an interesting one where I think he could finish like second or third, so I think he could end up being interesting if Kyle Busch leads all the laps, putting them together in a lineup. But more than likely, he's not someone that I really want to put with a Kyle Busch lineup. So I could see ways to get there, but I just don't know how much I love it. He has an average finish at 8 in the last 5, an average position of 10 in the last 5, which is very good. 23 laps led in the last 5 races as well. I believe that was all last week, if I'm remembering right. It was most of those were last week. So next we have Sheldon Creed. So Sheldon Creed's having himself a year, man. He is having the best year of his career. He's one of these guys where I just try not to look too much in his past average finishes because he's just been running so much better this year. Leading laps. He won last week in a range shortened race, but I mean, he was the fastest truck that race. I think he would have won anyway. So, yeah, Sheldon Creed's looked really good, but Sheldon Creed is a guy that, again, if you're playing Kyle Busch, you're not playing Creed or Enfinger, who we'll talk about in a second. Sheldon Creed is just not someone who really has he's just not, like, you expect Kyle Busch to lead all the laps, but there's really very, very slim chance, in my opinion, that Kyle Busch and Sheldon Creed end up being positively correlated this week. I think they're going to be negatively correlated. One's going to do very well, and one's probably not. And if you're probably going to, in all honesty, you're probably going to need one or the other driver to win a tournament this week. But I highly doubt that both of them will be in there unless Creed really jumps out to a big lead early, leads like 40, 50 laps, and then Kyle Busch passes him. But I just don't expect that to happen. I expect maybe Creed to lead the first 10, and then that's it. But there are definitely possibilities where Kyle Busch, isn't in the optimal. I mean, he could lead a bunch of laps and wreck. Like we saw that happen at, I believe it was Atlanta, where he wrecked out after leading a ton of laps, and he was non-optimal anymore. And that's where someone like Sheldon Creed comes in, who could be the guy who leads the next most amount of laps because Kyle Busch wrecks out. So I think Creed's fine, but again, would not play him with Kyle Busch. Grant Enfinger is the exact same thing. Everything I just said about Creed, I mean about Enfinger too, but let's look at Enfinger's past stats at Texas as well. 5th best average finish at Texas, 6th best at intermediates, 5th best at large ovals, and 3rd best at cookie cutters. So yeah, he's run well here. I forgot to tell you the last 5 race stats for Creed. Sheldon Creed's average finish in the last 5 is 9.6 and average position is 7 and 59 laps led. Enfinger's last 5 races average finish of 10.25, average position of 9.25 and 7 laps led. If you are not playing Kyle Busch in a lineup, I would rank Creed over Enfinger. So I think he has more potentially laps just on how he's run this year. Tanner Gray starts 20th at 7,300. I think Gray is an interesting value play, but I wouldn't hang my hat on him or anything. He's a solid play. In his last 5 races, he does have an average finish of 10.4 and an average position of 15.4, so that's very good. He has been running well this year, and if you're playing Kyle Busch, you need to find some value. It's not really great value, but it'll help you out in lineups. I think Tanner Gray is a good play to play with Kyle Busch. Up next, we have Rafael Assard starting 16th at 7,100. Now, Rafael Assard's kind of been, I guess, like a little bit of a letdown this year. I mean, he's in the KBM number 4 truck, so you expect really good things from him when you're driving that truck, but he really hasn't run so well this year. 18th best average finish at intermediates, 19th at large ovals, and 22nd at cookie cutters isn't really faring well for him. But the thing I literally say about Rafael Assard in every single race, every single video I make is, yeah, he's got a really fast car, so he has upside. He is top, I'd say like top 8 upside, and at 7,100, that's worth a shot at if you're playing a bunch of lineups. If you're only playing one lineup, I would choose Tanner Gray. Well, I don't know if I'd choose either of them, to be honest, but Rafael Assard is not someone I'd really want to play. But if you're playing a ton of lineups, yeah, I'd sprinkle in some Assard because I know he's got a fast truck. I know he has upside. Average finish of 14.33 and average position of 13.5 in the last 5, so not looking so great. but I do know that upside's there. Ryan Truex 7,000 just starts too high for me. I just don't think he really has potential to like move up a ton. Brennan Poole starting 29th at 6,800 is someone I'm very interested in. And Brennan Poole always finds a way to be someone I'm interested in just because he always seems to start so far back, and DraftKings never prices him up. So I'm going to keep going back to it. He starts 29th. He has the 11th best average finish at Texas, the 17th best at intermediates, the 16th best at large ovals, and the 14th best at cookie cutters. If you look in the last 5 races for Brennan Poole as well, he's got an average finish of 17.25 and an average position of 17.75. He's not going to lead laps, but he has like top 15 upside, and at 6,800 playing Kyle Busch starting 29th, you're going to need some of that. And I think Brennan Poole is someone that it could fit that mold. Jordan Anderson starting 28th, not too interested in him. He has not been good this year. I mean, even his stats in the past don't look fantastic or anything, but like an average finish of 26 this year and an average position of 24, it's just not something I'm really looking to get to. I'd rather just play Brennan Poole, although I do expect Poole to be chalky, so if Poole wrecks out and Anderson ends up finishing inside a top 20, he could be the guy you need to play, but I just don't expect that to happen. Ty Majeski starting at 6,400, starting 11th. It just he feels a little bit thin. Like, I think that's where he's going to finish. He's going to finish somewhere between 10 and 15 most likely. And I mean, at 6,400, that just you kind of need him to move up a little bit, and I just think it's unlikely that Ty Majeski does move up. If you want to look at his races this year, his last 5 races, he has an average finish of 15.5 and an average position of 14.75. So I think that really, that really shows you where he's going to finish in that range, and I just don't think that's what you need to pay off. Now, Derek Kraus, on the other hand, is only like 200 cheaper, and he starts 17th, and he has an average finish in the last 5 races of 12.4 and an average position of 13.4. I'm actually really interested to see if Kraus is going to be highly owned, because Fogelman's only 200 less, and he starts in 31st, which I think both are good plays. But Kraus, I mean, he's got a much faster truck. He has top 5 upside. I've seen him do it. I've seen him lead laps this year. So like, I think Derek Kraus is actually someone who could end up being a very, very good play here. Starting 17th, he has top 10 upside for sure. He's only 6,300, and I mean, the worst comes to worst, he finishes like 15th. So I just don't I don't see, or he wrecks obviously, but I don't really take that into account in all honesty when I'm making these decisions. But yeah, Derek Kraus, I think he's a very, very solid option here. I don't know how owned he's going to be, again, because Tate Fogelman is 6,100 starting 31st. Let's go look at Tate Fogelman's last 5 races. He has an average finish of 23.75 and an average position of 24.5. But yeah, he hasn't been running the best this year, but Fogelman had, at the beginning of the year, earlier this year, was like a top 20 car every single race. So if he can get back to that, I think that Fogelman could end up being a very solid play. I think people are just going to look at that number 30, that starting 31st, and they're going to be playing Kyle Busch, and they're going to be like, oh my God, I need as much potential place differential as I can get, and they'll play Tate Fogelman. So I expect him to be chalky. I don't know how great of chalky he's going to be. He could be decent chalk, but I feel like I'd rather just play Derek Kraus because I think he has upside to finish inside the top 5. Up next, we have Austin Wayne Self starting 26, and this is another one that I don't think is terrible. I really just don't ever like playing Austin Wayne Self. It just doesn't feel like he ever has any upside, which is true. There's really no upside to Austin Wayne Self ever, but I don't know. He might be a decent play this week. He has average finish of 21 in the last 5 and an average position of 24.25. Not great, but I mean, you just need to find some value. You just need to find guys down here that are just not going to kill you, and I think Wayne Self's one of them. Spencer Boyd's another one that I just, there's really not a lot of upside, but he'll probably move up a few spots, maybe crack inside top 20, so put them in the same breath as that. Norm Benning, Jennifer Joe Cobb, yeah, I'm not playing them. Norm Benning has an average finish in the last 5 races of 34, so that's a pass. Jennifer Joe Cobb is also trash. Corey Roper, though, I do not hate Corey Roper. 15th best average finish at Texas. That looks pretty good, but what's really, I mean, most of these guys down here, their past doesn't really show as much. You're looking for more what they've done this year. Last 5 races has an average finish of 23.8 and an average position of 23.8. I mean, it's not great by any means, but it's also not terrible. You, again, need value. You just need guys to move up a few spots, and Corey Roper's another guy who has top 20 potential, top 20 upside. He's ran, I think, inside of top 20 a few times this year, so I think Corey Roper's interesting. You just have to play some of these guys when you're playing Kyle Busch. And then the rest of them, I'm really not interested in. Cody Rohrbach doesn't ever do well, neither does Tim Vaines. Timmy Hill starts too high. I don't even know who this is. I did some research, one race in the last 2 years at Phoenix, I believe, and he finished 30th, so I don't think there's really any reason to play a Kenori Ogata. And then Angela Rutch, I'm not playing, never play her, or Decker. Decker just starts too high up, so Yeah, it's going to be hard. I think it's kind of hard to fit Kyle Busch in the lineups, but there's some value down here you're going to have to go for. I mean, Corey Roper looks fine. Even Austin Wayne Self's okay. Fogelman's good. I like Kraus. Majeski's okay. Brendan Poole's fine. Tanner Gray's fine. Even Lassard's fine. So that's really all I got on this video on this truck series. I hope you guys have a great weekend. I hope you guys win some money. Make sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, turn on notification bell. All those things really help me out, help me grow this channel more and more. And, good luck to all of you.